Welcome to Bad Idea Metals. I'm Anthony, and today I'm going to show you some of the trophies that I've been collecting, and I've been collecting them inside the house here where it's nice and warm and I can keep an eye on some of these things. But there are a few other trophies that I've been collecting, but they're outside in one of my sheds and I can't actually get into it right now. So we've got a lot of noise in the house. Kids are home. It's spring break around here. So I'm gonna have to edit what I can, but let me walk you through a few of the things that I've been collecting. This may not be the most interesting video for some of you, but this has been requested by a few. And since I can't melt anything and my gold refining video stalled out, you don't even know about that video yet. That will get released once I can finish it, but with all the snow that's going on outside, that's just not gonna happen. There's a lot of fun stuff in here. So I got this broken out from CPUs. I got a section of RAM right here. I've got a few circuits that interested me, and then just a few odds and ends. While we're down here on this end, why don't we start with the odds and ends? I've got some hard drives. I don't know all the specs on these. Feel free to leave a comment, but these drives are actually pretty significant. I mean, they're really old. These are in the megabyte range, not the terabyte or gigabyte like our modern drives. Most of you watching this channel already know this. There's really not much to say about all these other than they don't work, obviously. This one's all rusted out, but that's quite a motor in there. These are pretty cool drives. I've taken these apart on this channel before. If you want to see what they look like, I've got a video from a few years ago. You can take a look at that. I'm a sucker for anything that is symmetrical. So I like these motors. These are just the copper stators from a few motors. These came from, I believe they were CD drives, but they may have actually been floppy drives. So I really like those. Let's move on to our Sun stuff. This is from a Sun Spark server. There is a lot of gold flashing all over this. I do have a device that I should be tearing apart here pretty soon. It's going to break the hearts of many people. I've got a SunSpark M5000. It's a 350-pound server. I can't tear it apart. Not until the weather clears up. But take a look at some of the MLCCs on this thing. It's not even going to focus. But those are pretty significant in size, but there are bigger ones on here somewhere. I think they're on the back, but it's all right. That thing is it's a relic from when Sun Microsystems was still a company. I really like this card here. It's got this cool SunSpark processor on it. It just falls out if I'm not careful, but everything on here is gold bearing, like everything. You got these coprocessors here. You got these BGA chipsets here, and they've got this double layer of pins. They're not very wide pins, but they're pretty slick. I couldn't bring myself to tear this apart. Not yet anyway, because it just is so pretty. Let's move on to some of the RAM that I found. This is by no means an exhaustive list. In fact, I think these actually came from that server. But they're really tall, form factor. It's DDR1 or older. You can tell because those aren't BGAs. I don't think I have anything in this collection that's got BGAs in the RAM. But yeah, these are pretty fancy. I like things that are symmetrical, like I said, with the motors. So I'm fascinated by double-sided RAM, old RAM, things that are no longer seen very much. I'd say of the RAM though, this is probably my favorite one. This little guy, he's got some very interesting processors on it. I I don't really know anything about this one. Unfortunately, most of what would identify it have either not been documented online or they've worn off and I can no longer find it. I've tried looking up these chipset part numbers and even a few of the numbers on here, but my searches from a few years ago came up empty, but there you go. It's really cool. This is really old. That's really it for the RAM. I've got a few other pieces, but they're outside. They're really interesting to me. But let's move on to the CPUs. I've been collecting CPUs my entire life. This CPU right here, this is from an old Mac. Not just any old Mac, from my first Mac. This came out of a 6166, a PowerPC from, I've got to think it was 1992. I'm not positive. Oh, the CPU itself actually says 1992. I actually remember buying that computer, and when it was time to decommission the computer, I kept the card because, man, that's a really cool CPU. For me, this was my very first museum piece that I ever collected. I was a teenager at the time, so this was a long time ago. But yeah, this actually started my love and my excitement with tearing computers apart. All right, let's move on. Some of these CPUs and some of these chips were actually donated to me. Let's go through those ones first. So these were donated to me by a friend of the channel, and I really appreciate that. I want to thank him. I don't know if any of my subscribers and fans of the channel want their names given out, so I won't say names, but this friend knows who he is, and these chips came out of some space tech. I looked up the part number on this guy. This guy's really fancy. He's worth quite a bit, actually. So the shielding on this, it's shielded in a way that you'd be able to put this in a satellite, and the radiation in space and anything else that would disrupt it, like EMP or anything like that, solar flare, these should still function. These should still function. So this is a really slick chip. I really don't know what it's worth. The gold scrap value, I had talked with my friend about, he has a number of these, and I was going to buy them from him and do the gold recovery. And to be honest, I think these are much prettier, much nicer to not destroy. So I gave those ones back, and we didn't end up doing the gold recovery on them. But that's a really cool chip. I really like these chips too. I don't know why, but there's a silver version and a gold version of these. So those are really cool. I really appreciate my friend for giving me those. I have another friend who handed me this one. I have never torn apart a computer that had one of these in it, but this comes from a different friend, so I want to thank him. Again, I'm not saying any names, but really cool. Those are definitely valuable for my collection. So the rest of these I found. Some of them are pretty new, like here's some Pentium 3s. I really like this because it's on a daughter card. Here's a Pentium 3 that's all on its own. But then you're gonna have chips like these AMDs, this one, and these three over here that are just not super old or super valuable. And then this is an old Xeon. This one's a pin Xeon. What's the date on this one? You can't even tell. It's either an 06 or an 86 or an 04. Can't tell. I think it's an 04. But yeah, not too old. But then the rest of these I found in other systems. Oh, here's some Phenoms. Those are definitely new. Holy cow, these are only a few years old now. But I like how many pins are on this and how heavy the heatsink is. So they made it into my little collection, but they're really not that valuable. This is a pinless Intel chip from 1982. All right, let's see what this one is. I believe this was a math coprocessor. I actually don't remember. I kept it because that's really cool. I mean, per weight, there's not as much gold on this one as there are on these Intels or some of these other Intels up here. All of the CPU collections started when I found a desktop computer with this DEC Alpha. This is a really large chip. The heat sink went right on where those bolts are. This was a really fun chip to find. And then when I found that chip, I was left with a dilemma. I wasn't keeping anything yet. Everything was being destroyed. This was years ago. And so when I found this chip, I was like, hey, I should keep this because it's just really cool. It's really pretty. It represents history. It represents us as people creating machines that did some pretty fancy stuff. And then shortly after I got this one, I found this one, this Cyrix 686. It's not as heavy. It doesn't have the same gold pad on the bottom, but it's a ceramic chip nonetheless. And then it was official. I was keeping CPUs. After I started collecting CPUs and made my friends aware of it, that's when the rest of these started showing up. And then little by little, I was able to find old machines that had these ceramic chips, these Pentiums, these Intel Math co-processors, this 386, like all of them, they're pretty slick. I'm going to say that a million times, I have a feeling. But one of my favorite ones is this double Sigma chip. I don't know a ton about it other than it's a 8386. The date on it, it says 1986. But it's got that double Sigma down here, which is an indication of something. I can't remember exactly what. Feel free to comment. But I have this double Sigma, and I have another double Sigma right here. Yeah, the lighting's not great. But anyway, these are pretty much my favorite chips. The last one to really talk about, I guess, is this 8087. This is an Intel chipset. It's got the gold fingers and the gold heatsink. Now these aren't solid gold, they're gold plated, but the thickness of the gold plating is actually pretty significant. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, instead of boring you with all the different details and the historic value of the history of the chips and history to me, I just wanted to show you guys, as part of my anniversary for this channel, some of the fun things that we have found. I have a feeling that this is going to get real boring real quick, so I'm just going to wrap it up right here. I want to thank all my fans, friends, subscribers, family members. Oh man, I've got a lot of people to thank, but it's been 3 years. Thank you so much for watching. This is so much fun for me to do and so much fun for me to share. I know that the channel's changed directions a few times. I'm getting back into casting, metal melts, and other things. The gold recovery was pretty much the theme of last year, and I'm going to keep doing that. But I want to get back into the sand casts and things like that. So we'll get some fun things done here. As soon as the weather warms up, I've actually got 3 or 4 things that I want to do. But for now, these are the fun things that I've found, and I'm so glad to share them with you today. So I'm going to wrap it up here, but thanks for watching, and thanks for a fun 3 years so far. Good night.